In less than 2 months, Alabama football in the post-Nick Saban era is already soft and undisciplined. Texas went from having maybe 2 Heisman hopeful quarterbacks to 0, and Indiana is the best coach team in the country? What's going on?
The country is crazy right now, and we also got a crazy matchup in the juicer tonight. Max Gifford looks to put a bow tie on his first ever juicer win. He beat me in our fantasy league last week. He won't beat me tonight.
We've got a fun game called Fraud or Not. Adam and I have our plays of the week, our final words. You don't want to go anywhere. It's No Pulp, and it starts right now.
Kansas State has been on fire this year.
Missouri is one of the most fraudulent teams in college basketball.
And it was proved
They're not going to fire him. He's the best player in program history.
Side to Lawrence for the win. Yes, he got it.
She is the Shohei Ohtani of college softball. This is a team that's potentially going to be a top 10 team in the country.
How you feeling?
I'm excited to win the juicer.
LSU has captured its very first national championship.
Welcome into our CitrusTV studios for No Pulp. I'm Adam Gotkin, alongside Adam Avin. What a weekend it was in college football. Let's get right into it. Start with the game of the week, a top 5 matchup down in Austin, Georgia. After that rough loss to Bama, went to Texas, who seemed like the one perfect team left, but nope. 30-15, a demolition down in the Longhorn State. Quinn Ewers got benched in this game. I mean, Texas just did not look good at all.
He got benched because he had 3 turnovers. It was that big of a surprise, especially what we've seen with Arch Manning so far when he had to relieve Quinn Ewers when he was injured. Arch Manning comes in, fumbles as well. I mean, nothing could go right for the Longhorns this weekend. And I think the first thing that came to mind, Adam, was that they hadn't really played anybody this year. They played Colorado State, Michigan, Mississippi State, and Oklahoma, who is now terrible all of a sudden. We didn't think they were going to be this bad. So they haven't played anybody, and then they go and they play Georgia, yes, who lost to Alabama, that's been struggling, and we're going to get into them a little bit. But Georgia is starting to find themselves, specifically defensively, and we haven't seen a Texas team get bullied like this, especially in the trenches, in a long time. Even last year when they lost to Washington in the college football playoff, that was a back-and-forth game. This weekend, Texas just couldn't do anything, and we're down 28-0, and they were lucky they ended up with 15 points.
I think you said the right thing there, and it was that Georgia dominated in the trenches. I said this the last time we were on here, that I thought Sarkisian had done the Nick Saban, Kirby Smart thing in building good lines. Georgia's defensive line had 7 sacks and 10 tackles for losses. Quinn Ewers had no time. Arch Manning, when he was in, had no time. And at the end of the day, that was the difference. Texas couldn't run the ball. I don't know what Sark was doing. Jaden Blue didn't touch the ball at all. He had no carries in this game. Texas couldn't establish the run. They couldn't block. Georgia just dominated them in the trenches.
You go back to the Bulldogs, you see it on your screen, Carson Beck, 3 interceptions from this one. He's still showing his struggles. He really hasn't played well since the second half of that Alabama game when it started to be kind of, come a shootout. And the main thing we've been waiting for from Georgia specifically has been their running game. When's it going to appear? They always have these superstar running backs. And finally, Texas was turning over the ball. Georgia was set up in position for a lot of that first half. Trevor Etienne, 3 touchdowns. Finally, we've been waiting for him to do something. He was maybe the best running back transfer this offseason. So Georgia now finally finding their footing, and Texas has to take a step back. It's kind of annoying because Texas's schedule, there's no real other crazy teams like a Georgia that they're going to be playing, but you got to string together some wins here to make sure you're still in prime position at the top of the SEC to compete for the title.
I think the important question is, does Carson Beck need to be elite? Stetson Bennett wasn't always elite. Didn't always matter, though, because those Georgia teams were good enough. I think in the trenches and with what Etienne did, Georgia might be good enough where Beck doesn't have to be great.
Hey, Stetson Bennett still did his job either way. Look, Georgia's one loss of the year. They came against Alabama. Just mentioned that. But like we've been talking about, Alabama, they've been falling apart week by week. If you haven't heard already, they lost to Vanderbilt, maybe one of the biggest upsets of all time for that program. And then they go and they lose to Tennessee this week, 24-17. Adam, what do you see from that game? How did Tennessee ultimately end up winning? It was absurd.
I said this at the very beginning. This is a soft, undisciplined Alabama team. Before the game, walking into Neyland Stadium, they had cigars in their mouth. That's a joke. You can't do that before the game. You see the jump shot on the QB sneaks. What is Alabama doing back in the Vandy game? Guys throwing temper tantrums.
Someone did a
things
jump
aren't
shot on a
going
QB
well.
sneak. Nick Saban is walking. He's
He's throwing
out
him
the whole game.
out of the team. I don't know what DeBoer is doing. What Saban built is all gone. The pure discipline.
After 7 weeks,
yes, it's gone. It is completely gone. This is not Alabama football. What Saban built was all on being a smart, disciplined football team. That's not the case. I don't know what's going on with this Crimson Tide team because they just lost it. This was a bad loss to a Tennessee team that I don't think is that great.
Look, Alabama clearly has a lot of talent. They're one of the best teams in the country. They're one of the perennial SEC programs in the country for a reason. But
because of Nick Saban. Because of Nick Saban. That's the reason.
A lot of it has to do with Nick Saban. But now Kalen DeBoer comes in, and Jalen Milroe, right now this year, I thought he was going to be a Heisman front runner after that Georgia game with how good they looked. And then week by week, it's like, oh, he's just out there on an island like a deer in headlights. And unfortunately, that falls on the head coach, so he needs to pull them together. But Tennessee did not play their sharpest game as well. They struggled a lot throughout. It was a turnover or a 3-and-out on pretty much every drive in the first half. And for Alabama to give up that game and let Tennessee to come back, I mean, for Tennessee to be an SEC program, and props to them, continue to fight, you can't have a first half like that, and even more on Alabama's side, you cannot have a second half like that.
No, you can't, but I will say this. I do think that this is just Tennessee, and this is the volunteer team that we'll see throughout this entire season. Nico Iamaleava is just not that good of a quarterback.
Pronunciation, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
He dominated through the first 3 weeks against 3 awful teams. Since then, he just hasn't looked that good.
Struggled against my Gators.
He
wasn't
struggled
very
against
good.
Tennessee barely beat Florida. They beat him by a touchdown in overtime.
Just
a
absurd.
bad
Gators had that
Florida
one.
team.
Yeah.
Tennessee's not that good. Bama, not that good either. Just absolutely shocking to see. But I'll tell you what, one thing that isn't that shocking to me is Indiana football. I know that might sound a little bit crazy, but that's because I think that Curt Cignetti is one of the best coaches in the country, came from the Nick Saban tree, and his Hoosiers dominated Nebraska this week. Indiana 7-0. The Hoosiers are hosting game day this week. Cignetti is doing everything right with this Indiana program. They're playing winning football week after week.
When you first said Indiana, I thought we were going to talk about Mike Woodson and the basketball program.
He's awful. He's not a good coach.
I mean, that's the legacy there. Look, Curt Cignetti has done an amazing job coming in now after leaving James Madison, turned them into a great group of 5 team. And
they were already pretty good.
No, I know, but he did a great job coaching there. You remember when they asked him, when he was at a press conference and he said, "Look me up, I win." I mean,
Google me.
Google me, right? I mean, everyone thought he was going to come to Indiana. Look, it might be a struggle. It's a program that hasn't gotten 10 wins ever in the history of their program. And so he comes in, they play really good football. It's the first, you see it on your screen, the first coach in program history to win his first 7 games, and is on track to set the record for most wins in a season. In his first year with a program that has been nowhere near the top of their conference forever. I mean, it's phenomenal.
It's how he built the team. First off, he hasn't just won these games, he's dominated. Not just against Nebraska.
56-7.
They haven't trailed a single time this season.
Mini Mahomes threw 3 interceptions.
Raiola did not look good in that one. But Cignetti, what he did, how he built this team, 13 transfers in from JMU where he was before. He brought in his guys who know how he plays. Also, he brought in Curtis Rourke from Ohio, the MAC Player of the Year. Justin Ellison, All-ACC from Wake Forest. He brought in his guys, and he brought in experienced guys, and it's brought them to winning football.
And you talked about those relationships once again. If you watched our webisode, you saw us talk about Tony Bennett and how he just left Virginia. We talked about the transfer portal, right? You build relationships with these players, and then eventually, maybe they go to another school, they follow their coach, and they have some success there. These relationships in college sports matter, and a big reason why Curt Cignetti is having a lot of success right now.
Curt Cignetti, a winner at heart. We'll see if Adam Avin is a winner at heart, because he's taking on Max Gifford in the juicer when we come back. Don't go anywhere. No Pulp rolls on.
Why
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you hear about the pony with a sore throat? He was a little horse. Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why couldn't the Wait. Why was the basketball court all wet? Why? Because the players kept dribbling all over it. Where did cats go on vacation? New York.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. Why? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
Welcome back into No Pulp. It's juicer time, which means we've got Max Gifford joining us alongside, of course, Adam Avin and Adam Gotkin. Max, I know the last time you were in the juicer, things were a little bit contested. I can promise you this is going to be an even, fair fight. So let's get right to it.
Are you going to promise me that it's even fair?
Of course it will be. Usually the host goes with his other host. I'm just promising you. All right. Don't have to worry. This will be very even. So, Adam, I'm going to start off with you. Question number one. There's a lot of ranked teams in the SEC like always, but out of all of them, which one will not make the college football playoff?
It's the one that we've been talking about all show already, in Alabama. This is the first time since 2007 that Alabama has had 2 losses going into November. This is a completely Crimson Tide squad that under Kalen DeBoer than it was from Nick Saban. We already discussed their losses, but I'll hammer it home again for the people that didn't hear the first time. They lost to Vanderbilt, a perennial all-time SEC loser, and then to Tennessee this weekend in a must-win game. They already have 2 losses. They're really low in the SEC standings. They're not going to make the SEC title game unless some miracle happens. So that means they need to win an at-large bid. And there are plenty of teams ahead of them. Alabama's at 15 right now. All those teams have to fall for them to eventually make the playoffs or have any success of competing for the title. Alabama's missing it right now by any means.
By the way, Alabama still minus odds to make the college football playoff and also in the playoff picture at this point. Let me tell you about a team that actually is higher ranked than Alabama right now, has a better record, but has worse odds to make the college football playoff. It's talking about the Texas A&M Aggies. This is a team that cannot afford to slip up in the next 2 months if they want any chance at the CFP. It starts all this week. A&M is playing LSU, and then season finale against Texas. And also, you can't afford to lose any games in between that, and we're talking about an Aggies team that went toe-to-toe with Mississippi State last week. There's been glimpses of bright spots for this Aggie squad, but Connor Wigman has been super inconsistent. And honestly, if you ask me, I think A&M's 13th data point that they need is making sure they can get to that conference championship, a place they've never been. And honestly, with LSU and Texas on the docket, and with how inconsistent they've been, I don't see a world where they get to Atlanta.
Alabama at the top of the conference, by the way, 4-0.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, Alabama has 2 losses already. I think A&M has a chance to win out because of that. Point number 1 goes to Mr. Avin and Alabama. Well, we're talking about some teams that we don't like. Let's continue on that trend. There's still a lot of undefeated group of or Power 4 teams left in the country. Max, which is the first one to lose?
So you gave me the magic number, Power 4?
Yes.
Okay, so you know what else is the number 4? It's the amount of total wins that James Franklin has against top 10 teams. So give me Penn State as the first Power 4 team that is undefeated to lose. By the way, out of those 4 wins, only 1 of them is against a top 5 opponent, and the Nittany Lions are going to get tamed the 8th straight time by the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ryan Day and the Buckeyes, when they get knocked down, they come back even stronger. And when it comes to this Penn State team, Drew Aller, I'm sorry, he cannot play when the pressure mounts. When it comes to Aller, the only way he can be effective is by using the deep ball. Penn State's receivers nowhere near the caliber of Oregon's that Ohio State had to face, and also Penn State's defense way less, not as good as it was last year. So it could be Penn State as the first team to lose.
All right, well, it's the question's the first team to lose, and I'm going with the Pittsburgh Panthers, who are playing on a Thursday night. That Ohio State game's not for a couple weeks. Look, the Panthers right now have no quality wins at all. They're undefeated. 5 of the 6 teams they've played, though, have losing records, and we'll even take it a step farther than that. None of those teams that they've played, all 6 of them, have no wins against a ranked program and no good or quality wins at all. They play a Syracuse team that is undefeated against two ranked opponents so far this season, both in the 20s, yes. But then they also go and play a SMU team after the fact. They have a chance to lose both of these games, and not to mention Syracuse averages over 360 yards in the air against a Pitt defense that gives up 400 total. Kyle McCord's going to have a field day, and they're going to lose.
Here's the thing. I think that both these teams are going to lose those games. However, one of them is first. One is this Thursday. One's in a couple weeks. So therefore, Mr. Adam Avin wins this point because Pitt will lose to Syracuse on Thursday. We've got one more question here. Question number 3. Adam, it goes to you first. Who had the worst coaching performance in all of college football this week?
Look, is this a history making in the juicer right now? Because I'm doubling down on Alabama with this Kalen DeBoer take, okay? Look, on Tennessee's first 6 drives of the game, they punted, they missed a field goal, had back-to-back interceptions, they missed another field goal. If you're the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, you cannot let that happen and let a Tennessee team that has struggled all season long against other good opponents and somehow ended up winning these games come back in the second half like that. DeBoer is supposed to be this QB genius. We all saw what he did in Washington with Michael Penix Jr. But Milroe has been, like I said earlier, a deer in headlights out there. He was supposed to be a Heisman favorite, and you can't have an opportunity where you're on the 20-yard line consistently throughout that game and you can't punch it in and score a touchdown. Kalen DeBoer, awful coaching this week.
By the way, Nick Saban also lost in Neyland Stadium 2 years ago. Does that make him a bad coach?
No, he is one of the all-time best coaches.
Okay, well, I'll tell you.
But the question is, who are the worst coaching performers this week? And it's by far.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what does make a bad coach. Not having the ability to keep a team that is the reigning national champs in the rankings. It's Sharon Moore of Michigan, and there's no other thing I can say about this. Sharon Moore, I don't know what he's doing over in Ann Arbor, but it is absolutely embarrassing. It's a disgrace. His team scored 7 points against Illinois. And just for a little context, Purdue, the team that is 18th in the Big Ten right now, they scored 49 on the Illini. And you might be asking, well, what were the Wolverines doing last week? They had a bye week. They were doing nothing. They had 2 weeks to prepare for this and still came out flat. Arguably, their offense looked the worst it has the entire season. Sharon Moore, he needs to reevaluate a lot with his Michigan squad because right now, if they don't bounce back, they could be 6-6 by the end of the season.
Look, as bad as Bama is, I got to agree with Max here. Michigan looked like a team coached from 1924 as Illinois was wearing those 1924 uniforms. So I'm going to go with Mr. Gifford. That makes us tied. It's 3-3. We got to be quick here. Final question, bonus question. You guys got to really speed through this. Biggest comeback win, go.
BYU believe it. They had a last-second touchdown, ended up winning that game. That is a comeback if I've ever seen one. Still undefeated, by the way, and looking in prime position to compete for a playoff spot.
I'll raise you one more. How about a comeback story? How one of the all-time comeback stories. Brady Cook, a guy got injured on the first opening series, went to the hospital, got an MRI, went to the indoor training facility, said he still was feeling pain, came back on the field in the fourth quarter when his team was down 17-6, threw 2 touchdowns, and Missouri won, keeping their college football playoff hopes alive. So give me Missouri and Brady Cook.
I'm sorry, Adam, but a guy goes to the hospital, comes back, and leads his team to victory. Mr. Gifford, take this juice. You are the winner in the juicer today. I don't want to hear it. So, we've got a brand new thing this year. We've got our juicer power rankings. Let's take a look at where Mr. Gifford stands in this week's power rankings.
Are shaking their heads.
Ooh, Adam Avin, all the way at the bottom. That's a pretty nice name at the very top. Second place, I'll take it. Well, as Max Gifford has just completely chugged this, we will move on. We're going to take a quick break here on No Pulp. When we come back, we've got a fun game called Fraud or Not. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation letter.
You're resigning.
Why? Because you're constantly ignoring me. You're half as active as you used to be, and you get stuff like this. You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit.
I forgot. I'll do better. Please, don't quit on me.
Okay, but remember, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you.
Let's go for a walk.
Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who once took care of you.
Welcome back into No Pulp. Adam Gotkin alongside Adam Avin. Let's dissect some teams in college football. One of my favorite things in the world is to call someone a fraud, and we've got some teams that might be fraud-worthy. Yeah. Let's start off with the Miami Hurricanes. One of the top 10 teams in the country, but oh boy, have they looked bad recently. Cam Ward leading this team to victory, but barely on multiple occasions.
Look, I could talk about this Miami team all day long and how fraudulent they are. They give up nearly 40 points a game to ACC opponents right now. That's 39 a game if anyone wanted to get really specific. Yes, they beat Florida 41-17 week 1, an average team at best, but in the ACC they just haven't had much success, and their defense looks really, really poor. They're lucky they have Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo, who are awesome at what they do, but the defense just really isn't good, and I'm worried that if they go down and they play a little bit of a better team, that Syracuse maybe in the last week of the season, they're going to go undefeated maybe just based off of this schedule unless Syracuse gives them a run for their money.
The only reason that I'm not going to call Miami a fraud is because I believe in Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo. I don't think there's a better 1-2 punch in college football than those two. And when it comes down to it, when it's time to win in big games, you got to turn to the quarterback. And as good as Cam Ward is, his issue is in those smaller moments, he sometimes can get a little bit lackadaisical. He's just kind of there. He's not really trying hard. I think when Miami takes on another top dog, whether that's in the ACC title game or in a potentially massive game against Syracuse, who, I mean, hey, could have one loss at that point, then I think Cam Ward turns it on. I just think he's too good for me to bet against. I don't feel like I can get myself to call Cam Ward a fraud right now. Well, the other team that I find really interesting right now in college football, also undefeated, also in the top 15, is Iowa State. Matt Campbell has done an incredible job with this program going back to Brock Purdy's days. And once again, he's leading an undefeated squad. But I'll tell you what, I don't know about them this year.
I am saying that they are not frauds. And purely because of the reason, I think I'm going against a little bit of what I said with Miami here. Look, yes, they're undefeated. But what we've seen with Miami, I think 7 weeks into the season, we know what these teams do and we know what they're capable of doing. This defense has been so good, and defense wins championships. Do I think Iowa State's going to go far in the playoff or even make it and go on a run to win the title? No, but that doesn't make them frauds. They've played really good in almost every game they've played in so far, besides one last week where they barely won by just 3 points. If you look at every other game this year, 7 weeks in, I feel confident about their defense, and I like what I've seen so far from an Iowa State team who is playing pretty good this year.
The issue is they've played absolutely nobody. Barely beat UCF this past week. That's a really bad night squad.
Equal schedule to Miami. They're
both bad. I think Iowa State's schedule is a little bit worse, and because of that, I'm calling them frauds because unlike Miami, I don't think there's that firepower that can legitimately lead this Cyclone squad to a big win. They don't have a Cam Ward. They don't have a star quarterback. That one win was Iowa. Iowa has really fallen off since then. They're just 4-3. You talked about that Iowa State defense. The rush defense is awful. They gave up almost over 200 yards to UCF, almost 150 against West Virginia. I'm going to call it right now. Iowa State has a bye week this week. In 2 games, they will lose to Kansas and Devin Neal, one of the top running backs in the country. Iowa State loses that game to Kansas, and they will not make the college football playoff. The Big 12, not good this year, and they are going to be the one that misses it. Well, we're almost done here on No Pulp, but you do not want to go anywhere because when we come back, we've got our plays of the week and our final words, and I'll tell you what, I've got a lot to say.
Fancy pants peanut butter? A big screen television? You haven't even bought a sofa yet. A motorcycle? When your father finds out, he's gonna flip his shoes with 2 buckles? What do you even need 2 buckles for? Mr. Big Shot, buying whiskey shots for everybody in the bar. From the looks of it, I'd say nobody even remembers. Feed the pig.
If you're buzzed and doing this, to make yourself feel okay to drive?
CWX.
You're not okay to drive.
YGKLVW. Regular you.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it?
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got? Or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Welcome back into No Pulp. Closing up shots here at Adam Avin with you, Adam Gotkin right over there. Don't worry about that. Let's get to our plays of the week right now. Coming out of high school, Cormani McLean was a 5-star and committed to Colorado, but as a freshman last year, he had a very public dispute with the Sanders family, ended up leaving the program. No team offered him a scholarship, so he walked on at Florida. He hasn't touched the field all season, but watch what happened when he got on the field for the first time Saturday night. The Gators were up big here. Cormani McLean jumps the pass, takes it back for a pick six, taunts a little bit, and gets a pass deflection, a tackle, that pick six there with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. What a story. Gets his opportunity and takes it.
I know we're not really debating here. That's just a normal interception. I don't know how you can call that a play of the week. For me, my play of the week, we're going to something actually cool. The Pioneer League, non-scholarship Division I football. Dayton against Butler. These are two of the best teams in the Pioneer League. What an insane ending. A flea flicker to end it. Tie game, 15 seconds left. Drew Van Vliet throws it to Luke Brenner. What a catch, too. He's getting pushed. I mean, this is just an absurd play call, absurd execution. What a touchdown to end it. What a win for the Flyers.
Let's get to our final words here. A touching story in the world of college football. Entering college, Tylee Kraft was going to be the next star football player at the University of North Carolina, but in 2022 was diagnosed with stage 4 large cell neuroendocrine carcinoma, which is a rare type of cancer. He stayed in team meetings and tried to be around the team whenever possible. Fortunately, Kraft died just 2 weeks ago, and UNC honored him and his family last week, with players wearing Tylee Strong warm-up shirts, and that will continue going forward as well. Head coach Mac Brown also announced that the UNC football nutrition station would bear Kraft's name. He may not have been able to play long in a UNC uniform, but his impact on the program will last a long time. Shows how sports are always more than just a game.
A truly touching story there. For my final word, I want to focus on the service academies, Army and Navy, who are both having truly special seasons. This is the first time since World War II that Army and Navy are both undefeated this late into the year, and it represents something bigger. Both these teams didn't just get star players this year. There's a reason that they're both so good, and it's because Army and Navy don't have to deal with the transfer portal. They don't have to deal with NIL. After 2 years, their players are legally binded to stay at the university, and because of that, they can actually coach them up. Army and Navy can get these players in as freshmen, teach them the way of college football, and build them into stars. This is what so many teams have lost. There's a reason that Dabo is doing something good at Clemson. I know we didn't talk about that today. I love those Clemson Tigers. It's because he's not losing guys to the transfer portal. He has built a team that is sustained. And by the way, Army and Navy could match up in the American Conference Championship and then play again the next week in the Army-Navy game. That's a true possibility, and I'll tell you what, there is nothing more fun to me than the Army-Navy game, so I could not wait for that potential. I was a Navy fan growing up. There's just something special about that Service Academy football. The triple option,
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and you know what? I was a Gator fan growing up, but my play of the week doesn't matter, right? Cormani McLean, great story, comes in, a 5-star, nobody wants him.
I've made that interception 10 times.
All right.
You go up,
you
you
couldn't
jump
make
the
that
pass.
interception in college football 25.
I just did about 30 minutes ago. I got my Nebraska dynasty going, looking pretty.
And Nebraska lost this week 56-7.
Not in my dynasty. Well, thank you all so much for tuning into this edition of No Pulp. For Adam Avin, I'm Adam Gotkin. We'll see you all next time.